For more on this, we're delighted to be joined by our own Stephen A. Smith. You know him from First Take and every other ESPN platform there is. Stephen A., we appreciate your time this morning. I hope you and yours are healthy and safe, first and foremost. But second of all, what do you make about this idea that we're hearing a little more pessimism about the idea of the NBA being able to come back in any way, shape, and form for this season and the postseason?
Well, over the weekend, it appears that Brian Windhorst is absolutely correct. That wasn't the case as recently as Wednesday or Thursday. When I had spoken to several folks in the NBA, the idea was that somehow, some way, we'll be back in mid-June. There definitely won't be, audience in attendance. You'll be playing in empty arenas, maybe a few family and friends, not friends, but family members or whatever. But that's about it. People were exploring that along with a particular location. There were some people that had suggested that you just rent out about 2 or 3 hotels in Vegas. They've got about 3 or 4 arenas there. You can use 2 of them, play the games, and just isolate yourself in that kind of cocoon and go forward from there. But over the weekend, obviously, the pessimism has elevated because you've got a lot of people that says, okay, what when you really crown a champion, considering the conditions under which everybody has to play right now, you're away from the game for a couple of months. You haven't been in shape. Some people are able, in a position to work out better than others. Some people don't have it like that. If you're LeBron James, you've got, like an LA Fitness in your home, for crying out loud. If you're a player of a lesser caliber, obviously with significantly less riches and wealth, to put yourself in a position to get that kind of equipment available to you and what have you, you might not be in the kind of shape that somebody like him is in. So as a result, it puts you at a decided disadvantage. All of those question marks have essentially led to the level of pessimism that Brian Windhorst alluded to. So right now, who knows what's going to happen? I'm still holding out hope that somehow, some way, we can get some kind of playoffs going on and what have you. But to say that it looks daunting, to say the least, that would be accurate.
Listen, I think you speak, all of us, we all are hoping. We can all hope and we can all have optimism, and then we'll see where reality hits. And it's in your mind, and I know it would be tough to come back and just do the playoffs because everybody wouldn't be in that playing shape. But getting the minimal amount of basketball in and then having playoffs, when is the latest you think they could start this before they would start interrupting next year's play?
Me personally, I don't think they have a problem with interrupting next year's play, Golic. I think it's one of those situations where the owner for the Atlanta Hawks had proposed months ago starting the season later, like in December, and going through the month of July and possibly ending the season in the first week of August. So I think that if the NBA were to restart its season per se and return back to play in mid-June or what have you, I think you'll find a situation where ultimately, if the playoffs ended in August or what have you, you'd see the upcoming NBA season begin in December. I think it's something that people would think is worthy of exploration because the NFL is king. Obviously, from September to February, it's an incredibly dominant presence in the world of sports, particularly in this nation, as we all know. If you're the NBA, outside of the first week, opening week of the NBA season, the one time that matters is Christmas Day. And then after Christmas Day leading into the new year, then you're not really thinking about basketball until the Super Bowl expires. So the thought process is, why not start the season on Christmas Day? At least that's some of the people that were talking in the NBA. Why not start the season on Christmas Day? Okay, have that week available, opening week of the season. Then give January to the NFL, which owns it anyway. And then after that, we come back in February. And from February through June and July, the NBA, the world is ours. The sports world is ours. That's the mentality that some people in the NBA had. Whether or not that's something that is going to happen, obviously none of us know. But if they do elect to start this season, restart this season, or just continue to, just lift the suspension and go forward. And let's say, for example, they start in mid-June and they go into August, I think you could see that scenario come to light. But obviously that's a long shot right now, considering the pessimism that Windhorst highlighted, because it is real at this particular moment in time.
Stephen A. Smith with us here on Golic and Wingo. What's the player reception been like to an idea like that? Because it changes their entire offseason calendar. So much of the way these guys are used to structuring their time overall, how receptive have they been to the idea of moving the season calendar?
I think everybody's been receptive to everything in light of the times that we're living in. Never in our wildest dreams did we believe that we'd wake up and there's not one single sport event to talk about, to go back and forth about, or what have you. Nobody anticipated something like this, and I think it's changed everybody's perspective, and it's elevated the level of tolerance. For example, when it was first learned that there was a possibility that we would be playing without fans in attendance, when the games were still being played before the season was suspended, LeBron James was on the record saying, hell no, they'll be playing without me. That's not what I want to do. But then within a matter of a couple of days, he had, changed course to some degree, because you learned more about this coronavirus, the onslaught that it was bringing upon our nation and the world. And obviously you saw that the cancellation of games seemed imminent. And then ultimately it happened. And so because of that, it's changed everybody's reality. And think about this. A few weeks ago, never in our wildest dreams did we find ourselves being in a position of being remotely interested in watching a sport event with no fans in attendance. I promise you, more than half the sports world, if not the entire sports world, will be starving for that right now. If you sat up there and said, excuse me, if there's going to be no fans in attendance, but you can play baseball, you can play golf, you can play tennis, find a way to play football and basketball, everybody would take that in a heartbeat. Weeks ago, we would not have even thought about such a thing. The idea of such a scenario repulsed us. Now it's more than acceptable, because to have all of these weeks without any sporting events whatsoever, no NBA, no March Madness, no baseball, no tennis, no golf. Right now you'll take whatever you can get and be happy with it.
Well, to that point, Stephen A., they're talking about a Tiger Phil rematch, and it was nobody watched the last time around. Now they're like, yes, please, sign that up right now. We'll do exactly what you need. But we're trying to find these creative ways to fill, and one of the things that the NBA is doing is thinking about doing this televised horse contest with athletes and NBA players in their own facilities or in their in isolation, competing in a televised event. What are your thoughts about the idea of that?
I don't have a problem with it. It's not ideal. Again, it's not something that's riveting to me. But if you're starving, you'll eat anything, and that's really, really what it comes down to. You'll pick and choose what you want to eat when you're not hungry, or when you're not starving. Rather, you don't have to worry about where your next meal is coming from. But if you have nothing, and the specter of nothing has been hovering over you for weeks, and then all of a sudden you get an idea like that, anything sounds great. Hell, I can go out there in a 3-point shooting contest with you and Golic, and people might watch. That's how desperate people are right now. I mean,
that would be desperation.
That's right. There's no way around it. But again, it's not a bad idea. But guys, I'm a bit more optimistic than most from the standpoint that I'm hopeful about the NBA. I don't foresee the NFL canceling any games, but I'm one of those guys who firmly believes, and I've been dogged about this over the last couple of weeks. I believe that baseball, tennis, golf, all could be played right now. You test the participants, there are no fans in attendance, and they could go out there and play. How much direct interaction is there? You can literally practice social distancing while playing those sports at the same time. Just think about it. Just think about it for a second. The tennis players, do they have to literally be in each other's face? No. They're shaking hands at the end of the game. They don't have to do that. Golf, do you have to be in each other's face? No, you don't. Baseball, you're on the field of play. Each position, take it. First base, third base, center field, right field, left field, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, obviously, it's not a good trait to be in a dugout spitting tobacco all over the place, which is a disgusting habit to begin with. But is it plausible that if these folks are tested before they engage in competition, that these sports can move forward? You're damn right it is. And I firmly believe that baseball, tennis, and golf can resume in short order. I firmly believe that.
Well, Stephen A., the only problem with that, and I hear what you're saying, logistically, specifically when it comes to golf and tennis, these are the most international sports, and we're talking about people flying in from all over different countries where the pandemic is sort of at a different level. To your point about playing the game, you're absolutely right. But the idea of getting people there, I think, is problematic.
Well, I'm saying, I do get your point. Obviously, that's something that you'd have to work through, and I totally understand that. I was just speaking about the actual participation in the sport. That's all I'm talking about here. The games can actually be played if somehow, some way, you can get the participants on location to perform. I think the games could actually be played.
And Stephen A. is a sport where they just put some in the Hall of Fame, the Basketball Hall of Fame. Just your overall thoughts. What a class, especially the trio we talked of, Garnett and Duncan and Kobe, have the most NBA All-Star appearances by any trio that left the game at the same time. They have 48. So your thoughts on this group?
Well, first of all, Kevin Garnett, I'm just so happy for him because he was a born leader. This guy, left it all out on the court, was incredibly, incredibly intense. And you just got to tip your cap to him, how he carried the Minnesota Timberwolves franchise on his back for years. They never won a title or anything like that, but he was clearly the franchise. He was the big ticket in every way, shape, and form. And so to see what he did on a night in, night out basis, particularly on the defensive end of the floor, while being the option for that franchise, and then going to Boston and winning a title his first year there, getting back to the finals 2 years later, starting five with him, Perkins, and Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and Rajon Rondo, that, as Doc Rivers was popular for saying, nobody had beaten us. We never lost the series when all of us were healthy together, because that was true. To see him recognized in this fashion, it's well-deserved, and I'm happy for him because the intensity they brought to the game was big time. Obviously, Tim Duncan is the greatest power forward to have ever lived. He's a five-time champion, was a phenomenal champion. I think had a better career than most because of the level of consistency and excellence that he brought to the table, the continuity that he had with Coach Greg Popovich, winning his first title, bringing David Robinson his first title, and then after that it was him, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker as your version of the Big Three and what they were able to accomplish. He definitely deserves all the accolades he's going to receive. And last but not least, of course, sadly you think about Kobe Bryant. It's bittersweet. Kobe and I talked about, him going into the Hall of Fame on a couple of occasions. He knew he was going. Obviously, everybody and their mother knew he was going. He was excited about it and was going to take shots at Shaq and other people like that in a very fun, affable fashion. And to know that at age 41 years of age, he's gone. Having tragically passed away in that helicopter accident. As much as you want to praise him, a two-time champion, two-time gold medalist, 18 All-Star appearances, 17 straight scoring champion, five-time champion, to know that this Hall of Fame class is going to honor him, but he's not going to be there, knowing how much that would have meant to him. If you know him, it just reminds you of how sad it is that he's gone, that he's not going to be there to receive and to celebrate such an incredible honor. So it's kind of bittersweet, and you're going to see the big ticket, and you're going to see Tim Duncan and those guys reflect on them a lot because they had a lot of love for Kobe, and he had a lot of love for them.
No question, he won't be there, but it will be a chance to honor his accomplishments and celebrate his life one more time. Stephen A., as always, we appreciate the time. Be safe, be strong, my friend.
Thank you, guys. You do the same.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.